Okay, hi everybody. I thought that an explanation of this ShepardTone um, assignment and the basic sort of glissando generator, I thought that would be in order for this. So here's the model that you guys get on the web page, on the course site. Um, Now, I hope you're consulting the rubric because it has a lot of directions too, but I thought this patch deserves some explanation. So here, I'm going to make a new window here, and let's just talk this one side out here because there's a lot of buttons and wires and stuff like that, etc. And I think we can make sense of it if I just kind of go through and rebuild this, as it were. All right. So the first thing we want to do, as usual, is create our output. So we're going to make a gain fader. Now, I think somebody already asked me about this, but the whole stereo thing, I am defaulting to stereo because we are going to be using stereo at some point soon in the course. But you can certainly make this mono if you want. Now, I think we talked about this, but in the textbook, the patches that they all work with use this feature for audio output. You've got this start window feature with the DAC here. Now this is a little bit old, but what it does is it makes it so that only this window turns on. Why are you all the way up there? If I use the feature called the Easy DAC, that sort of turns the audio on all the windows. And that can be less than desirable sometimes. So this is what we're doing here. Now the new thing we talked about is how to output, how to record. Because this is going to be really useful for the class. This is basically how you're going to be turning in assignments. So this object here is called the SF record object, RECORD tilde, and then we've got this 2 here that means stereo. And there's an order in which you have to do this. Well, first of all, let's hook up audio from my faders into my left and right record. Oh, that does not look nice. And then you got these 3 commands, okay? The first command you click on when you're getting ready to work with SF Record is open. Okay? And let's just copy this. I'll select, there we go. So you click on this first, and it allows you to create a directory. So tell it, hey, I'm going to make an audio file, and I want you to put it in this location I'm going to specify, and I want you to call it this, and I want it to be, you know, a wave or an AIF. The next thing you do is you make a start button, which is of course a 1. Goodness gracious. Maybe if I did that. There we go. Now, after you click on open, oh darn it. Copy. After you click on open, the next thing you're going to click on is this 1, and it'll start recording your sound. So click on open, create your directory. No recording has happened yet, but once you click on 1, it's going to start recording anything that comes through these gain faders. Okay, so you click on this, the recording starts, then you go and you trigger your patch. When you're done with the recording, you click on this 0 message box, and this will stop the recording. Okay. Now there's a picture of this in the rubric for this project, the guide. And this is what we're going to use for the whole class. So once you learn how to do this, it's great. You can export audio out of your Max Patch. It's like a little tape machine or something. Okay, now down to the nitty gritty here. What's going on with all this gobbledygook? Okay, the guts here of this patch are fairly straightforward. We've got a sine wave generator, so N, and then CYCLE. And that sine wave generator is going to have its pitch controlled by, take careful note here, we type N and then we type function, and that's one of these breakpoint editors. So the pitch of this sine wave is going to be controlled by this breakpoint editor. But there's a couple things we need to do to make this work. Okay, you'll notice over here we've got our pitch glissando. So the pitch is glissing down, a nice parabolic curve there. And then over here, what's this? It's another function generator, but this is controlling the amplitude. So this is an ADSR window. Okay, so your glissando can fade in. All right, so let's make this work. All right, the first thing we want to do is, when we're dealing with curved lines, logarithmic or exponential curves, we need to take from the breakpoint editor this function. We need to take, we need to use a curve object, C-U-R-V-E, curve tilde. And then pay attention, second from the left goes in there. Now, this will enable us to do curves, except for we have to do one more thing, and this is really important. I mentioned this also in the rubric. Let's click on this and go to the inspector. So Command I, and you've got all these different features here. Some of you might not see all of them. You have to click sometimes on all to make everything show. But these are all the different ways that this function generator can work. If you look here, I've got mode, and it says linear. I want to go on curve. Okay. All right, so now I've set that up so it can make these nifty curved lines. And so that's going to be the control for my pitch coming down in there. So let's take that and route this soon to be created curved line to the pitch input of my oscillator. Okay? Now, next thing we want to do is control our amplitude. Also, we're controlling our pitch with a linear control function. So let's control the amplitude as well. Sort of how things work in nature. So you could type any number you want in here. I tend to not go higher than 1, and we're going to be mixing a bunch of these oscillators together. So I would keep your amplitude not too high, because it'll just overload the system. All right, so this goes in there. So our waveform, and here, let's move all this down a little bit. Our waveform is going into here. So we're told at what pitches to play, or what glissando to do. And then that raw audio signal is going into this signal multiplier, which is essentially like a volume knob. Right now the volume knob is set up so it can't move at all. We're going to change that. So we're running our audio into left and right. Good deal. Now, this is where it gets neat, I think. I'm going to make another breakpoint editor or function object, F-U-N-C-T-I-O-N. And this doesn't need to be as big. Now this one, we're just going to go with linear. So N and then L-I-N-E tilde. Now the range, the default range for these function objects, or breakpoint editors as they're sometimes called, look, when I click a dot, is from the Y is from 0 to 1. And that scales just right with our amplitude. So we don't really need to do much to this right now. There we go. Look at that. What a nice amplitude envelope there. So that's going to go then, the output of that is going to go into there. So the maximum is 1, the minimum is 0. So this is the amplitude slowly creeping up over the course of the pitch activity here, and then ramping down. All right. Now, we're not quite there yet. We have to give this a lot more information about what to do. And this one too, frankly, needs some more hints. Okay, so let's go up here. All the information for how this object behaves goes in right here. All right. So the first and most important thing we're going to do, I apologize for all the yawning. My coffee is not kicked in yet. The first and most important thing we're going to do is tell each of these boxes their x coordinates. So how long it's going to take for a point to start here and move across. That's sort of our time in our graph. And to do that, that was the wrong thing. We're going to type M to make a message box. And this is a common command here. We're going to type set domain, okay, which is another way of saying how long this window lasts for when you activate it. And then $1. And that just means I'm putting a variable in there, okay? Now, we want the pitch to glissando for a set amount of time. We're going to talk about how to do that in a minute. But we also want this amplitude envelope to line up with this pitch, right? We want these to both last the same amount of time. So we can take this same information and run it down to here. So now both of these will last the same amount of time. What is that amount of time? Well, that's up here. We're going to type I for integer. And now I can set my x coordinate. So let's put in 5,000, so 5 seconds. And watch this when I put a point in there. See my x coordinate? Oh, wait, you got to click it. Pretty cool. Why don't you go to 5,000 now? DOMAIN. All right, so let's see if we can get this thing to work here. Look at that. Now I'm not getting curves yet because I haven't inputted my my curve feature. So let's work on that too, okay? Sorry. Yeah, why aren't you going to? Well, we'll work that out soon. Soon enough, we'll work that out. Let's see, is this one doing what it's supposed to do? It's going to 1,000 as well. Well, we'll figure that out soon. All right, so let's work with the rest of this stuff. So now we've got this curve object here, but we want the curving line to be active, right? And we also don't want all these extra points. So I'm going to hold down Shift, click there. Now another message that comes in is this set curve. So I'm going to type message M and then set curve, SETCURVE. This is just curve 1. We're just going to have one curve in this, and then $1. Now that's going to go in there also. And the curves take a float. So F, type F right there. And remember, if you're wondering about any of this stuff, you can use this patch and just, let's say, click on one of these objects. Darn it. unlock it, and Command I, and it'll tell you, or no, sorry, Shift Command H, and it'll tell you all about how this object works. All right. See, I'm changing the domain there. Boom, boom. I don't know why it's not working on my example. It's very frustrating. Anyways, okay, so let's continue. Let's forge ahead. So now watch, I've got my 2 points here. And whoa. So I can change that. Just like that. I don't know why that X is stuck at 1,000. We'll have to keep working with that. Okay, anyways. So now we have one more feature or two to add. And that's going to be, right now, it works fine for this. Our graph goes from 0 to 1. See? There's 1. There's 0. However, for this one, 0 to 1 isn't enough to do any kind of pitch glissandoing, as they say. So what I need to do is change the range. So actually change it so the y coordinate is different. Yeah, it's weird. It's working there. Maybe there's something else I have to set up. Okay, so let's get one more parameter there. So set range. And in this case, I want my lowest note, I don't know, let's say 55, so that low A to 880. So just a bunch of A's, really. There we go. So now let's click on this, and I should have, look at that, 880. That's my new range. Okay, so now let's make this go. I'm going to click on this, make this bang here. This is B, or button, and it's going to activate my curving line that's going to trigger my cycle, and it's going to activate my amplitude envelope at the same time. So let's make it so this connects over to here. And fingers crossed, let's see if this works. Start window. There we go, look at that. Now as far as why this isn't updating, I have no idea. Because it works over here. Set domain. It's not even working over here either. Very strange. I wonder what happened if I... Nope. Weird. Alright, so for some reason that's not working. But that is how you do it. Nice. And see how it fades in like that? Look, I can create... It's my changing amplitude envelope. We want these to kind of fade in. And look, I can do... Alright, now, for the next trick, we want this to loop. We want this to go over and over again. Now, it turns out that when your curve object is done, it actually shoots out a bang. Like both of these do. So this is really useful, because what we can do is we can make it so every time this ends, right after it finishes, we can basically trigger it to repeat. So watch this. Pretty cool. Must be something wrong with this number box. I've never seen anything like that. It never does that. It's not changing at all. Alright, well I can figure that out later. Now, let's say we want to be able to turn that feature on and off. I've got one more thing for you. This object called a gate. So we can take that bang, and this will work differently than usual. The signal actually goes in the right inlet in these objects. And then we can control whether or not we want that to go through. So if I turn the gate on, if I click on this X, it'll open up the box. Watch, right now it's stopping it. And look what happens when I go. Wait a minute. Might be good if I routed that signal out, huh? Alright, let's try it again. There you go. So this is like a little switch that turns on and off my looping capability. Alright. So, do your best with this. I want to see if you guys can get this composition done. We can work on it next week. I understand there was some issues. But see if you can do this. Give it a shot. The information you need is all here. To make the ShepardTone, what you'd want to do is string like, I would say a minimum of 6 of these. Just copy and paste these and rig them all up so they're all working slightly out of sync with each other, but all looping. Do that research. Look up what the ShepardTone is. Find an example of it and see if you can recreate the ShepardTone and submit that for the assignment on Sunday. Alright, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me, and I will see you guys next week. Best of luck. Thank you. Cheers.